Hello. I wrote a letter. I read it to my counselor today, and she approved it. Dear moms, it's not your fault when a child is molested. It's going to happen more times than it's not. This isn't your fault. Try not to freak out. If it's a child-on-child assault, and the children are within a few years of the same age, you mostly need to simply and very matter-of-factly separate them. Tell them kindly, this is something to take care of in the restroom. Or say, this is something that only an adult can help you with. Then get them occupied with a meaningful activity within your sight. Many of the mamas from our clothing exhibit had responded to their child in harmful ways to the disclosure when they found out their child had been molested or assaulted or exposed to sexual contact. And in those scenes, it was not just one assault, but often over and over. Even one assault can leave a mark. But you don't have to be perfect in responding to your child's disclosure. The moms in our clothing exhibit were probably unknowingly responding in less than helpful ways. This may not be their fault. They weren't told nor prepared how to act for a child's well-being when bad things happen. Probably they didn't know any better. Now that so many examples have stepped forward, we can learn to have a better response. At least one or two of the parents I do know went to law, took their child to a forensic examiner, and in other ways they stood up to the abuser for their minor child. It gives me a little hope for humanity when this is the case. I love that some of the time there were a few individual family relationships which were not fragmented and shredded following a child's disclosure, even an adult disclosure of violence. Some of the survivors have had to lose all of their next of kin while still living, due to the lack of informed responses to their disclosures, and also due to other adult family members denying their entreaties to choose safer behaviors. I have a few stories of survivors to help you understand how it can look. My mom immediately believed me, and she was devastated that she had not been able to protect me. However, She also had no idea what to do about it, and for this I do not fault her at all. You see, my assault was done by a complete stranger while I was at a children's hospital when my brother was being discharged after he had nearly died. I was in a children's playroom that had really large windows to the hallways on at least 2 of the sides of the room. I had requested to stay there while the rest of my family went to watch the helicopter land outside. I was given permission to do so, and it was in those few minutes that an older teen boy walked in and assaulted me. After it happened, I left the play area and went to find my parents. However, I did not mention anything that had happened until much later. By the time I did get the courage up to tell my parents, I'm quite sure there was not anything authorities could have done to track down or to catch the predator. However, after they did know about it, I noticed that my dad especially was very careful to never leave me alone in public areas, or to allow me to get too far from the rest of the family while we were walking, even in wide open public spaces such as the beach. There is another survivor who told me how her loved ones never left her alone after she was assaulted. This was by her request. It wasn't that they were stalking her kind of thing. But she would feel awful just being a little apart or separated by a little distance from other people. So friends made efforts to always walk next to her and to not leave the room until she was ready to go in group spaces. That type of thing. Until the immediate PTSD had alleviated a little more. Then when she was ready, the family and friends relaxed their vigilance a little bit more. In another case, I had a homeschooling friend who discovered something going on between their children. A grandparent lived next door, and the oldest of the children was immediately transplanted to live at Grandma's house. They took all the children to trauma therapy and for an exam at the doctor. Mama needed trauma therapy also. Please note, it is very hard to go through something this intense with your children. The parent couldn't talk about it anywhere in order to retain the child's dignity and privacy. However, adults do need other adults to confide in during these seasons as well. This mom did have a grief consultant friend who had a pretty wide platform on Facebook. The mother wrote an anonymous letter and asked the grief consultant friend to post it on her platform. That helped a lot of us to understand in real life what a disclosure might look like when it is responded to safely and appropriately. In another story, one mother was a nurse, and after work one day, she walked in on her husband with a child. She went into hysterics. Sometimes you simply can't help screaming and ranting. Mom picked the child up. She pulled the phone off the wall and called 911. She packed the assailant's travel bags and took the child to a 24-hour forensic nurse immediately after filing the report with law enforcement who responded to the house. Wife asked the husband to sleep at a hotel or his mom's or at any other location because she was not about to have him in the same house as a child until he had undergone sexual assault treatment or psychotherapy. Maybe this was even a case that went to court, and this dad was not permitted in the child's life at all after that. You cannot allow yourself, Mama, to feel guilty for very long for something like this happening. You didn't cause this. The perpetrator always chooses his activities. When they choose to molest someone, this is the choice they are making. Never give them a second opportunity to quote-unquote prove themselves. They showed you once. Believe them. As a general rule, screaming at the point of discovery is something you want to avoid. But if it happens, it happens. Just keep moving, console your child, and make the point that adult-on-child assaults are unacceptable on your watch, and that law enforcement will be called ASAP. Actually, this needs to be preached in wedding sermons, in my humble personal opinion. We need to have training and teaching from the pulpit on this. We don't need any details of assault. We need step-by-step plans of actions and permission for our people to follow the laws of the land. Actually, reading aloud the state laws to a group is an excellent way to get the word out to our people. People in their 20s need to be taught that being on probation with an electronic ankle monitor, for example, or the sex offender registry for life, is a real thing. And that they want to be motivated to take steps that keep this from happening. It's not that a perp can't be a Christian later, but it means we, the bystanders, never again will trust that person alone with a child or in any ministry capacity that has minors nearby while he's serving or she's serving. This is not limited to males. Thank you for taking time to listen. Love, Auntie Ruth Ann.